Okay, so today we're diving into something really interesting happening over in India in their EV market.
Yeah.
And, just to be upfront, we've got this article here about
Yeah.
this big investment that was just announced.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty significant. And I'm hoping we can unpack it together and see where things might be headed.
For sure, yeah. I mean, it's huge, right? We've got Hero MotoCorp.
Okay, Euler
That's
Motors.
the motorcycle and scooter company.
Right, right.
They're putting a ton of money into this EV startup, Euler Motors.
So Euler Motors is focused on the three-wheeler market.
Exactly, yep. Electric three-wheelers.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, I guess that's what we're trying to figure out in this deep dive, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean when you have
Yeah.
this big player who is already doing pretty well with motorcycles and scooters,
Right.
throwing their weight behind a company that's all about, electric rickshaws and these cargo carriers and things?
Mm-hmm.
How does that impact not just these two companies, but the whole EV scene in India?
Yeah. Totally. And we're going to be looking at this article.
Yeah.
It lays out all the details about Hero MotoCorp's investment in Euler Motors.
So before we get too far into it, what's the first question that pops into your head when you see this news?
Well, for me, it's why this specific partnership and why now? Hero MotoCorp already has a pretty big stake
Right.
in Ather Energy, which is, they do electric scooters.
Yeah, they're pretty big.
So why are they suddenly jumping into the three-wheeler game with Euler? What's the bigger picture here?
It's interesting. So there's got to be something special about Euler Motors, right? They must bring something really unique to the table
Yeah,
if Hero is willing to put so much faith in them.
definitely.
So fill us in. Who is Euler Motors and what makes them stand out in this whole EV world?
So Euler Motors started up in 2018, founded by this guy, Saurav Kumar.
Okay.
And they've been really focused on electric three-wheelers from the get-go. They've got this flagship vehicle called the HiLoad EV, and they're claiming it has a 170-kilometer range, which is pretty impressive.
170 kilometers.
Whoa. Yeah, they're saying it's the most powerful electric cargo three-wheeler out there.
Most powerful, huh? They're not messing around.
No, not at all. So let's talk numbers, because Hero's putting a lot of money on the table here.
Yeah, break it down for us. What kind of investment are we talking about?
We're talking up to 525 crore rupees,
Okay.
which is roughly $60 million.
60 million. That's a serious commitment.
Absolutely. And that gets Hero MotoCorp a 32.5% stake in Euler Motors.
32.5%, so a big chunk of the company, but not a majority.
Right, exactly.
So when did all of this actually go down?
This article says that the deal was approved by Hero MotoCorp's board back on March 20th of this year, 2025.
Okay, so pretty recent.
Yeah, very recent. And it's interesting because it comes less than a year after Euler Motors finished their Series C funding round.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they got another $24 million in that round.
So they were already on a roll before Hero came along.
It seems that way, right? Investors were clearly interested in them.
So it's not like this investment is happening all at once, is it? Is it just, boom, 60 million right away?
No, it'll be done in stages, what they call tranches.
Okay, so they can kind of see how things are going before they commit all the funds.
Exactly. It's a smart way to go about it, especially for a large investment like this.
So let's get into the real meat of this. What's the thinking behind Hero MotoCorp's move into electric three-wheelers, and why with Euler Motors specifically?
Yeah, the why is always the most interesting part.
Right.
I mean, from Hero's perspective, this is a really clear way for them to jump right into the electric three-wheeler market, which is, it's growing really fast.
Right.
And they're not shying away from it. Pawan Munjal, their chairman,
Yep.
he said that this investment is a bold step towards their vision to, and this is a quote, be the future of mobility.
Wow, that's a big statement.
Yeah, they're clearly thinking long-term here, beyond just motorcycles and scooters.
So they're really trying to be a leader in transportation, however people and things move around.
Exactly. And they're also recognizing that things are changing fast, and they need to be flexible and collaborate to succeed.
Right.
Munjal actually said that they're committed to growth, both organically, meaning through their own internal development, and inorganically, through investments in companies like Euler Motors.
So they're not just relying on what they already do. They're actively looking for opportunities to expand.
Precisely.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what about Euler Motors? They're getting a huge influx of cash, and they've got the backing of this giant company.
Right.
How does that impact them?
I mean, it's a game changer for them, right? It takes a lot of money to scale up production, to
What
do
money?
more research and development, to reach more customers.
Mm-hmm.
This investment basically gives them the resources to really grow, and then there's the potential to tap into Hero MotoCorp's infrastructure.
Okay.
I mean, they've got manufacturing plants, distribution networks, service centers all over India.
Mm. Wow, that's a huge advantage for Euler.
Oh, absolutely. It could totally accelerate their growth and help them reach a much wider market.
Speaking of market, this article also talks a bit about what Euler Motors is currently doing. What can you tell us about their products and where they're operating?
So their main focus has been the HiLoad EV.
Okay, the electric cargo three-wheeler?
Yep, that's the one. But they're also moving into the electric commercial four-wheeler segment.
Oh, interesting. So they're expanding beyond just those smaller vehicles.
Exactly. They're looking to cover a wider range of needs in commercial transportation.
And geographically, where are they at right now?
The article says they're operating in over 30 cities across India.
30 cities. Wow, they're really spreading out.
Yeah, and their financials show it. They went from a turnover of 49 crore rupees in 2022-23
Yeah,
to a whopping 172 crore rupees in 2023-24.
that's some serious growth.
Right. It shows that they're tapping into a real demand for electric commercial vehicles.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Where does all of this fit into the bigger picture of the electric three-wheeler market in India? What's the outlook for this segment as a whole?
The general consensus is that this segment is about to explode in the next few years.
Explode. Wow.
Yeah, it's going to grow like crazy.
Yeah.
There are a few reasons for this. The cost of traditional fuels keeps going up.
Okay, that makes sense.
People are becoming more environmentally conscious, and the government is pushing policies and incentives to promote electric vehicles.
So Hero's getting in on the ground floor of what could be a really big market.
Exactly. It's a smart move, but they're not alone, of course.
Right. Who else is playing in this electric three-wheeler space?
The article lists some pretty big names: Altigreen, Mahindra Electric, Piaggio, Kinetic Green, Tata, and others.
So it's a competitive field.
Oh, yeah, very competitive. But Euler has clearly shown they can innovate and attract investors. So they're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
All right, so let's bring it all together for our listeners. What are the key takeaways from this whole deep dive into Hero's investment in Euler Motors? What should we really remember from this conversation?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. A major player in the traditional two-wheeler market is making a huge commitment to the electric three-wheeler market by investing a significant amount of money in a promising startup.
It's not just a little partnership.
No, not at all. 32.5% for $60 million. That's a big strategic move.
And it really highlights this trend we're seeing across the entire auto industry, right?
Yeah.
These big companies are realizing that they need to adapt to the electric future.
Right. They can't just keep doing what they've always done.
Exactly. They need to be part of this transformation.
Absolutely.
It also shows just how much innovation is coming from the startup world in India. Euler Motors is a relatively young company, but they've grown quickly, they're expanding into new areas, and they've attracted a lot of attention and money.
And I think that's what makes this partnership so interesting. It seems like a win-win for both companies.
Euler gets the capital and the reach they need to grow.
Right.
And Hero gets a solid foothold in this rapidly growing EV segment without having to build everything from scratch.
Exactly. It's like they're leveraging each other's strengths to navigate this changing market.
It's been a fascinating look at this alliance in the Indian EV scene. It really gives you a sense of how the industry is shifting and the kinds of collaborations that are happening.
And it makes you think, right? Like, how will these partnerships between these huge companies and these innovative startups shape the future of transportation? I mean, in a market as big as India, that's a big question.
That is a great question. And I think it's a question that applies to the whole world, not just India. What other unexpected collaborations might we see? Who else might team up to change how we get around?
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. It's a really exciting time to be following this space. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
My pleasure. Always fun to chat about this stuff.
Until next time.